This is part 2 of WebVoyage behind the scenes.
That we've got going on here. So we've already been talking about the default skin. You can be making really as many of these as you want, and to do it, we just simply need to create a new directory, give it a designation, whatever you're going to call it, and copy the contents of ENUS into it, and then proceed to make modifications. Now, I did try this through WinSip once, and it took much too long. I found it was a whole lot simpler on the server. And down at the bottom right, there's a little chat window. I'll put into the chat window the exact entry that needs to be put in. And so you can see there the copy with the -R. That means copy it with all of the permissions in place. Then the ENUS, the directory that's going to be copied, give it the new skin name, and everything gets copied over, and you can go to town on it at that particular point. So there you can see what that copy function looks like. So on the server, much simpler to do, takes far less time, and just makes it much more efficient in terms of getting that information through. So you really can just have as many of these as you want. I asked the lead developer if there actually is a limit. He said the only limit would be on the basis of disk space on the server. And so really being able to go as far as you want. The EXL default skin, the read-only copy, so making sure that there's always a fully functional copy of the default skin available. So if you discover that you've got problems developing as a result of local customization, you always have a file that was working, and then you can essentially start again, going on from there. Then one of the primary files that we get working with is the WebVoyage.properties file. This is organized into 3 main sections. We've got the options, the connections, the page customizations. This file is similar in scope to the opac.ini of WebVoyage Classic. So it does a lot of that kind of thing. You'll also notice that there are some things not in it that you might have expected if it was an exact translation. And there are a couple of times where you'll see in a file, this used to be in the opac.ini in WebVoyage Classic, no longer there, things like that. So in the options section, basically we're answering some questions. We say yes or no to configure behavior or enable or disable the behavior and make it part of what's going on in that particular instance of WebVoyage. In the connection section, here we can follow step-by-step directions to configure connections to remote databases. So if you want to put all of that in place for, I don't know, connect to the Library of Congress or something like that, you would be able to put that in very neatly. Yeah. It's in this connection section. Oh, right. Yeah, in fact, this is something I'm going to have to configure myself. But I think once we activate the functions, then we get to see things like connect into the multi-library, connect into a specific library. In fact, we can give that a try here in just a little bit. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah, and we can give that a try here in just a minute as we get into that file. The page customization section, this is where we start to see things like how does the page header and footer look, the quick search bar behavior, holdings information, you know, what's going on in the actions box and all of that kind of thing. So if we go and look at that, in fact, here, let's open up WebVoyage properties, but first making the copy. Okay. Come on. There we go. All right, so when we get looking at this, again, lots, and it's almost like there's a table of contents here at the top of the page. So with the options, you know, things like which page should the system return to when somebody logs out? Search basic, search advanced, subject search, author search, you know, different kinds of things. Where should the, when somebody clicks on the exit button, where do we go? So in this case, it's going to index.html. It could just as easily be going right back to that basic search portion of things. Do we want to even use the quick search? Yes or no? The geospatial search. Well, of course, you'd have to have geospatial searching, you know, deciding whether or not you want to put that in place and that you've got records that go along with that. Some kind of basic authentication. Should WebVoyage users enter a PIN when they're logging in? Pretty straightforward. Is it going to be a brief logon form or the standard logon form? Then we get down to a more extensive authentication. And then working with getting that external authentication going and where you went, wherever you've got that set up. The saved searches area. Do we want the SDI turned on? Well, let's say we're going to do that. Okay, so we'll just save that file. Save the records, load related records. Do we want to see the paired bib tags when we've got alternate graphical representation? So if we have bib records that include non-Roman languages, for example, do we want to see those things in paired mode, or do we want to see them differently? And much there depends on whether or not you've got records that display that sort of, or that include that kind of information. Time, here's the timeout configuration piece. And it keeps reminding you that you need to be working in concert with the web.xml file. It must be less than the Tomcat session timeout. So here it's set to be 10 minutes. How many minutes before timeout should the user be warned? Should it be less than the, okay, so it's saying there it's 2 minutes. You could make it 3, whatever. And what happens when the session does time out? It goes to the exit.do, and it takes that particular action. Now, let's take a look at this connections section. So right now, everything is commented out, the hash marks. And so let's just say that we are going to enable this kind of thing. Let's just, connect DB. Now let's leave that one alone. Take out, everything here related to connectdbgroup.1 or 1. Okay, now having made that change, let's save this and see what we see. Okay, it looks like it has been, refresh that page to start. And now if we go into basic search, here we go. See, now by having activated that, we get this change entry. Click to change to a different database. And right now, it's the local libraries on the basis of what I had activated. So let's go back here for a second, and if I'll open up the rest of I'll open up DB2 so that we can see some of these other entries. And 3. Okay, let's save that. And now if we go back, come on. Right. Yeah, so now we're seeing, what some of the options are, and of course we would have other, let's just see here, let's go with the academic libraries. So presumably you'd have your multi-library kind of thing going on, and so needing to just get that set up for every single one of those entries. Yeah, so it's just by having opened it up that way, and according to the instructions up here at the top, so to create one or more groups of remote database connections, do this, and so follow the 7 steps and go on from there. Yeah, so it really isn't terribly difficult, and yet it really helps to have someone show it to you. Here we get the header part of things, and so here's where we have that image. So if I was to go back and say Boy Train Live, I think that's what I called it. So that will now apply that into the header itself, and so it will become. In fact, I had originally thought it was going to be the header.css, but I'm beginning to wonder. Okay, I must not have named it correctly. Let me just double check on that before we... Oh, yeah, so you don't include the exact text, it makes a difference. So, make sure we put that in. So it's one of the things about computers that, on the one hand, very exacting, on the other hand, very frustrating. It's sort of like, but you knew I meant that. Yeah, and start talking to the inanimate objects. Okay, so. And there's now my other image in place. More on this. So that was the header. What do we want to call the buttons? So here we've got that search button. Then we get these things, these messages, and that's going to be, that's part of the accessibility portion of things in terms of you place your mouse pointer over top of something and you get the little message popping up. So we've got all of these kinds of things. In fact, it's almost like it's hover text, so you're able to see what those are going to do. So header, footer, what you want to include. So your library link goes here, so that would be, well, let's just be really creative here. So So, you know, just getting to experiment with that sort of thing. Here's where we then get down to quick search. So how do we want it to behave? You can see just from looking at the quick search code that this is the keyword anywhere and with relevance. That's in place. There's the button that says go. How about search? And then again, the message text and all of those sorts of things. The login page, the different kinds of things. Now, if you didn't want to be including Social Security number, which most places don't, so just the hash mark in front of it to comment it out, and then that will take it out of the list of possibilities at that point. So you're not actually removing stuff from the file so much as hiding it from view. The record display options, pretty standard kind of stuff. Do we want the search redirect enabled? Do we want to be searching another database? So this probably would be something that you would enable in your multi-library search kind of thing, is that if you perform the search at the local library, not finding anything, take it out to another database altogether. Then we have our search definitions, and here you've got, you know, a lot of the very basic kinds of things that are in place. You can add more. Just it needs to be done on the basis of what the index is called in system administration. So you'd be able to put in. I'm just thinking of some of the other things that that might get included. I'm seeing okay, there's ISSN, ISBN. You know, just really the sky's the limit depending on what it is you'd like to be including there. The headings for where we've got holdings records in relation to location, call number, and status. What do we want the labels to be? Again, really quite simple to be working with. Here we've got our initial limits kind of thing. So this is kind of equivalent to the quick limits that we know of in WebVoyage Classic, and it's the sort of thing that applies on the basic search page, as you can see in the instruction. So if I wanted to change this, so rather than saying 2006 and after, I want to say that I want it to be 2005 and after. So it's going to take into account the date information that's being found in the fixed field area of the bib records to accommodate that. So having made that particular change, we can then see where that comes through. And let's just go ahead and refresh this. Okay, there's the error page. All right, that's interesting, I'm sure. I see part of what it's still. Oh, we just suddenly got a sluggish line, so the refresh is just not happening very quickly. Right. Not specifically, because that sort of thing you'll rather have, it will be on the individual workstation for the staff clients. But then here, so right now we're seeing this quick limit thing, and there's my 2005 and after change that I just made. And so that would now, in fact, if I was to do a search, well, let's just try something here on shipwrecks. And so you can see that it just automatically applies out there to anything in connection with those short limits. So this is the sort of thing that applies here. Then we've got different locations. And so here's select location. These variables are used for course reserve searches in multi-cluster databases. Well, that doesn't exactly apply here. At least I don't think you have a multi-cluster situation, do you? You've all got individual databases, right? Search pages. So here, again, what are we calling what are we going to call the various things? You know, what labels will we apply? This is where we're working with that, including again the messages. So what's the pop-up that comes through? Then we've got the search basic, and here's deciding what we want to all include. And so again, lots of instructions that are in place. And then the various searches that are enabled, those that are disabled. So right now we have the keyword anywhere and we're seeing that here. And so rather than saying all fields, I might say all terms. And maybe I want to actually include the or option, and so I'll say any terms. You can see that there is an order position, so by the fact that the keyword anywhere and or the all terms is first, that means it's going to be at the head of the list, then second. If it's disabled, it's just skipped over in the view of things. And so again, let's just go ahead and save that, and so that now will have added that search in. Let's just see how we're doing here in terms of it is really quite sluggish here in terms of the saving. Sometimes I just think that that's just like the universe and everything. We always expect it to be too fast. Okay, so going back over here, we now see, so there's the any terms. These are all terms, we have any terms, so, you know, really easy to make changes to that. You know, just in terms of getting other people involved in just decision making. You know, what are we going to call these things? How are we going to label them? That's where your reference librarians can go to town. You get to work on those sorts of things. So all of those search types that so all of that relates to just basic search. Then we get down to the advanced search, and here deciding how many search arguments do you want to include. The default number is going to be 3, so that's where we see this page search numsets equals 3. Then what do we want to have as the default connector, and so on and so forth. So we really haven't, you know, we're not yet halfway through the file. Then we get the search subject, the search author, and here deciding how you want them to behave. So the subject at, this one being a keyword, so the subject keyword type of search, whereas the author is the author browse sort of thing. And of course, reserves. You can, of course, turn it over to become that alphabetical browse, where you're able to click on the hyperlinks if that's something you want, rather than the typical drop-down. And so it would be a case of enabling it there. The holdings details, the action box. You know, what do we want to call these various things? Where do we want to work with this? Do any of your libraries have access to something like SFX? Okay, because you may want to be just disabling that function. And so just one of the things that we had in the actions box was more about this item, and then there was an SFX image. I remember that there are 2 places where we need to disable that particular entry, and one of them is here, and the other is to actually hide the image. Just say don't display that image. I can't remember exactly where it is right now, but we can figure that one out. Related records, various kinds of things there. Then just wanting to carry on a little bit further here. Even constant string for the display label for a holdings copy number. So there, if you wanted to actually say copy rather than C dot. Seeing that, the other things here that relate to item status information. Again, kind of standard kinds of things. So a lot of that. Now, the one thing that I did want to point out is that email option, getting that turned on. And you'll notice I just click on the spyglasses there and finding email, and next and next. And the thing here is that in the send email section, we have our option to enable email functionality. So here's where I would change that to yes, to say now make that available so that we can do exactly that kind of thing. So having done that, and let's just double check on our speed. That's a little bit better this go around. I'll go ahead and, just curious, perform a search, and well, let's just use spices at this point. And I think that we should see that email button active at this stage. If not, we'll just refresh the page and that will take care of it. Actually, there it is. So I'd now be able to select a couple of things, email, and go through that whole emailing process. And in fact, something just to take note of here is that, just as long as you're putting in a valid email address, that works just fine. I can change the subject entry. You can include body text, and it comes to you very neatly. More on that in just a little bit. Something else to take note of here is if I just select one of these items, that in the actions box itself now we'll actually see the email option. So it's been added automatically. And I did take out the more about this, because if I hit it, we just need to figure out where we need to go. And the thing to do here is the right click to say inspect the element. Show me where that file is. Where does that image reside? And we're beginning to see some of the kinds of things. We can see where it shows us the image source detail. So we just need to, from there, figure out what that file is, and I believe it's one of the holdings entries where we get to see what that does for us. So it's a way to go ahead and just take it out completely and so on and so forth. So it does. It really is a lot of fun to work with this sort of thing. A lot of it is not unfamiliar, I think, and so you're able to come along with it pretty quickly. So that's just a very quick overview of WebVoyage.properties. From here, I'm just going to take us back out to the slides and get looking at the CSS files. We've got some work to be done with these. There is what I think of as this primary group of CSS files. These would be the basic ones that we want to make sure we are that we're editing. And in fact, it may help you to think of as this group of 4 files as the master rules that are present throughout WebVoyage. What it means, in fact, is that these files are called by almost every page and manage the constant style features that come through. So if we just look at them, here we see the framework.css, the kinds of things that come through, where we're managing font sizes and colors, the alignment, the banner size and position, footer size. So if you have a larger image, if it's taller, then you may need to change the position or how tall the banner itself is so that it can accommodate that particular thing. The footer size, the hyperlink colors, all of that kind of thing. So if I take us back out to WebVoyage, and we'll go ahead here and use our spices search once again. And now go into opening up Firebug. So here, let's say, for example, that I want to, and clicking on the CSS just gives me a nice list of everything that's open. So all of these files that are in play with regard to this display. So here we'll go to the framework. So again, doing things like changing the backgrounds, using the up or down arrow approach. So there's something called wheat. And I think it's definitely going to be worth it to go through this particular, working through this particular approach, because it's going to just say, okay, I need to go to this line in the file to look at this or that, and make that particular adjustment. I want to change the color of the text. So everything that is constant, again, so then we have that black text. Maybe I want to make it red. And so it makes a small change for us. If I want to do things like change the font size, so here you can see this font size entry here displaying as being 12 pixels. I did read something about what exactly the relationship between pixels and ems and things like that, and I just can't remember what it is right now. So let's say that I want to change that. Well, there's a 2, then make it 22. So that's just changed the size of the input box for the quick search. Or take it back to the 12. Then looking at the page heading title. So just making our way down in the file. So right now, the page heading title is displaying here in this particular color, and it's really helpful to just place your mouse pointer over top of it because it tells you what you're going to be working with. And in fact, more specifically, this information, it applies to this titles area right here. So if we wanted to change it, let's see, why don't we get something here, sunset orange, and make that particular change. And so it does it very, very quickly. And I think it would be definitely would be a good learning tool just to experiment with these sorts of things as you trying to figure out where something is. And where the kind of change occurs, and then take it to the actually to the server file or the server side and edit the file. Of course, there's much more in framework.css, but we'll just stick with that part of things. Okay, what's that about? I managed to lose my connection there briefly. Oh well. So that's framework.css. Then we have header.css, and this relates to things like the position of tabs, horizontal and vertical, the space that's provided for the header and footer, where the patron login and help link are placed, again, alignment kind of things. So if we just go to take a look at that, and since we have the header part of this, we can choose it and scroll to the top. We've got our header row. So in order to take care of your taller image, we need to, right now it's at 65 pixels. If we change that to 165, you can see how it opens it up. So we'd now be able to accommodate the larger or the taller image. Of course, that does also give us some other things that we need to do, and that would be the placement of the tabs, because right now they're kind of out of sorts with everything else. So we would need to find the actual tab positioning and make changes to that as well. So I think we've got lots of possibilities with regard to that. Let's just take that back to 65. Maybe you want to have your logo over at the right-hand side rather than over here. And so when we look at the logo section here, the float is showing as left. Let's just change it to right. It jams it into the right corner, but you can see how it's also moved the login information. So the login to your account is suddenly sitting just to the left of it, so that would probably mean that we need to make an adjustment for it. and push it over to the left or a little bit further over from where it is right now. That sort of thing. Then, depending on how large you would like to have these tabs be, so we've got a header tabs area here. In fact, here we're seeing, just out of curiosity here, if I put this in at 165 px as we had it, then I was just noticing the header tab showing at 65 px. Let's just see. Okay, nothing has changed there, so that's telling me that we don't have the right spot yet. We'd have to figure out where that would go. So more things coming with the header tabs. Sure, go the right one. Margin at the top. I wonder if this is the one. That's the one. So I've now jumped it all down to accommodate the larger image. So giving us a clue about where we need to go with that sort of stuff. Then we have the header tabs, and this is the one here in relation to how much padding are we going to provide around the terminology. So if I go with a 1, for example, it's now adjusted the height, or it's shifted where the text is actually displaying. If I go with the second one, it makes it a little wider on the right, so we've lost the centering function. This one, I think it probably affects it down below, but we're not actually seeing any change there. And the fourth one giving it to us on the right. And if we then wanted to center it, can we center it? Doesn't seem to like that. Let's go with just experimenting with what the options are. That's right. You can really do all kinds of weird things with this, as you can see. So but just in experimenting with it, I think you get a whole lot of idea about where you need to go to do what, at least initially, and especially if you're not quite sure about your particular skill set at this point. You know, as you're learning, this is a really helpful way to do that. Then we have the quick search bar. So here are things like the padding around the search box, the color of the span, the vertical position, and all of those sorts of things. And there are some kind of cute things that we can do in that quick search bar entry. Here's my message pop up. I guess maybe I should perform a search here. And just by having refreshed that information, it just all takes it right back to its base. So from here, let's go to the quick search bar. And so that's affecting everything that's in this span right here. And so again, changing the color as I indicated. The one thing I did want to show you is this search tips. Search history area. Let's see. Yes, the text decoration. This is kind of a cute thing. Make sure I go to the right place. It looks like I missed it there. Is this the one? Yes, okay. So the search history area, I've now underlined it, overline, line through. I can make it blink. So somebody has put all of this kind of thing into play, and just making it easily available. The page properties. So this applies mostly to the My Account page. And it's going to make changes to things like the instruction text, you know, how the page appears, putting a border around the summary text, that sort of thing. So it just gives you an opportunity to draw attention to certain things like that. Then we've got some other CSS files, and some of these we will already have seen. Pardon me. In our list of drop-downs, the results facets.css, display common, my account, and highlight.css. These pages override the master rules. So we had those things set in the previous 4 files we were looking at. Now anything that we do here will override the default setting. So with the results facets, so this is the kind of thing that now is applying to how the results display. So the font color, font sizes and colors. What colors do you want for the alternate rows, if you do want to have alternate colors? The spacing, the available, not available images, all of that sort of thing. So if we go to open up that, or take a look at that file, so there's results facets. And so here's doing things like the search terms span, which is this one. So right now, for example, this search terms area relates to the all terms, that particular line. So if I wanted to increase the size of it, I've just made it into really big. And so being able to draw attention to it. Or just, finding what kind of size you actually do prefer. So that one's giving you a way to work with that. The jump bar, and this is, should go to the right one. The border bottom, yes, okay. So right now, the jump bar that we see over here on the right-hand side, this long line that goes all the way across is connected to it. And so if we change that, we have a way to be able to draw attention to it. So it gives us, and of course we could be changing the color too. We'd be able to, take it from the whatever color it is right now to something else altogether. In the event that you don't care for the jump bar being over here on the right-hand side, and in fact this was something that one of the field test partners said, we think that's going to be just too confusing to library users because they're not going to see it, so they'd like to have it over on the left-hand side. And so just simply changing the float position from right to left. And so it's giving you a way, or in this case showing as none, but or left there. And so I'm going to be able to work with that sort of thing. And in terms of changing the colors, so here being able to see what the various kind of things are, let's go. We need to go down to something here called even row to work with that. And okay, we've got past it apparently. There we are, odd row, even row. Okay, so right now you can see there's that gray color. Well, let's just see what happens if we put in, let's go with green. Oh, I know. We even got the wrong one there while we were at it. There we are. Should go. So changing that particular background color. Something to take note of here is that I've now taken care of the even row, but I haven't taken care of this particular entry right here. So I would need to make sure that and here I'll just use the inspect element portion of things to see where that particular spot is to take care of this whole checkbox area, so we can get the color to be exactly the same all the way along. So it just again giving you some ideas about where these kinds of changes occur. Now back over to the slides, and we see the display common.css. This is something that affects how the records themselves display. So once a library user selects a title from the results list, we get to see these various kinds of things. The position of the record display, the labels, the appearance of the information, the color, the font size, all of those sorts of things. Something to take note of about this is that you may find in your installation, in fact you probably will, two files, display record.css, display staff.css. These are no longer in use, but they remain in the database. Originally we had, there were the two files that had to do with the display, but according to one of the developers, we kept copying and pasting things back and forth. It was finally just simpler to build a new one. And so we now have this display common, and so it's the thing that's going to control the details in relation to what we see when we display staff. So that would be what you would normally think of as the staff view. So all of this now being managed by display common. And so there we have things in relation to the action box, the colors. Let's just see here. Let's go with, how about orange? So it gives us, again, a way to draw attention to it. And the borders, the various kinds of things. The bibliographic data. This is kind of a cool one to work with if you want to be monkeying around with things in relation to where the labels are positioned. Should we go to the right one? So right now the labels are on the left. I've just put it on the right. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and yet you can if you had right to left language, that was your standard kind of thing, well, then you probably would be doing something like that anyway. And font sizes and all of that kind of thing, just in terms of how large you want to have your title display, or if you want to have it be fairly small instead. Then the myaccount.css. Here, buttons of several kinds, the placement of the patron summary box, customization of some of the windows and things like that. So if I just go back over and I'm going to log into my account, we'll be able to see what this sort of thing looks like. By the way, there's the Social Security number thing now is gone. We took it out earlier. Or we didn't take it out, we hid it. That was the thing, we hid it. Yes. Okay, so here, just in looking at the myaccount.css, one of the things that you'll see within is that in the browse bar, and that's what this particular entry is called, wherever we've got the yellow button and then the links all the way along and it comes back around at the bottom, that's called a browse bar. And so at the moment, of course, it's on the left. Let's see what happens. Nothing. Okay, that's cool. I'm not sure what that means exactly, just that it doesn't display. If I place my mouse pointer over top of the image description or the image path, you can actually see that it comes up, or part of it does. A lot of these images are actually in two pieces, so that if you decided to change the text on the button, it automatically resizes, and you don't need to worry about creating a new button or editing an existing button to accommodate it. So that's a really rather nice kind of thing. Let's just see here. If we go down to, there's the menu kind of thing. Let's just make that border really big on the menu. And so you can see how I've now really got drawing attention to it, and I think that's a good thing to be able to do. At least based on my experience, library users tend not to look very much. And so if we can just get it in their face, all the better. And the last of the basic files that I wanted to point out to you, the highlight.css, and this is the colors that are used to highlight search terms. You were already seeing that there's the yellow background with the red text. Well, we can be adjusting that according to other kinds of things that we might want to include. Let's just try. How about recycling? Yes, and it always helps to spell things correctly. So there, in fact, there you're seeing a good example of it right now. If I want to be making changes to it, one of the things you will see is that you've got that background color of yellow. So we might say you want it to be different, transparent altogether. So all you're seeing is the red text. And just always thinking about ways for all of the different types of library users. I mean, you might have something very particular for vision impaired people. So it gives a way to work with that kind of thing. So those are the CSS files that I think you'd be working with in terms of your initial project and getting everything going there in terms of colors and so on and so forth. There are, of course, some of the HTML files that you may find yourself working in just in terms of text. What information is going to display for health examples and whatnot. But those are the CSS ones. Questions about any of them? Okay. All right. Now, I want to just get my WinSip open once again. There we are. And at this stage of the game, we're going to go and have a chat about, and moving on to the XSL file. And one of the things that I've found useful is to understand the difference between things like XSL and XML. And one of the reasons for doing this is that you'll see a lot that say XML, some that say XSL, and what's the distinction? So XML, which is also known as Extensible Markup Language, is the core standard used to manage and organize information via meta-language. It means that we can use XML to create other languages to define or create specific types of content. XSL is used as a sophisticated formatting tool that takes the XML data and can transform the structure, the objects, the styling elements. So an example of that one might be transforming XML data into a PDF document. So you see how you might work with that. So the primary XSL files in this particular situation, I believe, are display CFG.xml, display holdings.xml, page properties.xml, and limits.xml, so that you're able to, again, be adjusting according to an institution's terminology, locations that apply, languages, all of those sorts of things. One thing, though, I did want to point out to you about this is that I want to show you how these files are actually called on to do what they do. And so for that reason, I want to take us into and this is where we start navigating into some of the more complicated kinds of things, getting a little bit deeper in. And in this case, going into, let's see, context for the XSL. And inside here, we see this content layout area. And when we take a look at CL_display record, the thing that we're able to see in looking at this is that we've got the style sheet information clearly going on, and its whole job here is, I mean, it states it categorically, transform the information that's coming through. But then we get this section here called our document holders. And so what this is telling us is that we want to configure the document display according to this file found in that particular directory path. So from that, it would tell us that we need to go to configs, and from there choose display cfg.xml. For holdings information, again, we're in the configs area, but there it's showing us, it's telling us display holdings. And so it's calling on those files, and then it goes through to build the information. So it's retrieving the data, and then building that information according to the details that are displaying in the rest of the file. So you'll see this build mark display, build the action box, build the jump bar, all according to these templates that have been put in place elsewhere. Then, one other thing to be taking a look at here is a way to get help with troubleshooting or seeing and troubleshooting the XML and XSL files. We've got another debugging tool that's been put in place, and it's activated through a particular file here. And I'm just going to back up a layer and go into, should I go to the right one, the page tools and framework.xsl. The thing that we have here is this debug section. So if we want to enable the debugging feature, and you could do this so that everybody could see it, or maybe you just want it there temporarily, I'm going to just change this to true, save the file, and the thing that you'll see once we refresh the page is that we actually get, and here just going off to scroll down and I'm trying to do too many things at once again. Big hurry. There we are. Down in the bottom right corner of the page, the very, very bottom, we get this button that says Show XML. And that happened because I enabled that particular function. So now if I click on it, it actually shows it to me. So I can now see the XML view of that particular page and get an idea about where things are at. And if something isn't displaying correctly, being able to begin to learn about what it is I need to sort out, what the labels are, the values, all of those different sorts of things. So, and in fact, this particular view is brand new with this latest update to Firefox. So this is something that I haven't seen before today. Another place to be able to see this is through Firefox. When we go into the HTML, when we begin to just open up the different kinds of things, we begin to see the XML view details that are appearing, and so seeing the IDs, where things are at. So here I've just placed my mouse pointer over top of page container, and so it's highlighted the entire thing. The Show XML, I imagine that if we scroll to the bottom, we'd see the Show XML active. Let's just see if that indeed. Okay, not seeing anything. Then we've got the hidden XML portions of things. So that's a way to help with getting those sorts of things figured out, what's going on with them and so on. Now, if we head back over and to the slides here for just a minute, we'll talk about these primary files. So we have our display CFG. So this is really configuring the bibliographic record display. In fact, the name of it should be, minus the XML, should be fairly familiar, display CFGs. We had our display 1, display 2, and so on, where we're deciding which mark tags we're going to include, what the labels will be to describe the fields, and so on. And so if we just go off to find that, and you'll remember from looking at the content layout page a moment ago that we need to get ourselves into the configs area, and so back to content layout, but now into this configs subdirectory. There's the display cfg.xml. And so here, now being able to work with these sorts of things, and fairly similar looking to that, lots of that same information that's in place from the display 1 through 5 that we know from WebVoyage Classic. Anytime you see something like this, display tags label equals, just change it out to become this book is called, whatever you would want it to be. And then deciding from there which mark tags are going to be included, which subfields, all of that sort of thing. So we'll just go ahead and save that. And if we then go to call on an item, assuming that the save completed, yeah, so there's that. This book is called, rather than it being titled, as we saw before. So being able to do a lot with that kind of thing when it's when you want to be making those sorts of changes. And of course, you can be, excuse me, adding or removing mark tags as is appropriate as well. Back over to the slides and the display holdings. Well, this is, again, it's similar to the display CFG, except now it's going to affect the holdings and items record display. Deciding again the mark tags, changing the labels, just the way we did here a moment ago. The page properties, and so this is where you get to change the order of the search tabs in the header and footer. So if your preference is to have the advanced search be the first tab, this is the place where we're able to be doing that. We're also able to edit the search tips for each of the search pages. Change the order of buttons in the browse bar. So this is where if you want to have the email button be first, you'd be able to do that. Let's go ahead and open that file. There we are, and so needing to get down to the correct place, and I have to tell you that I still sometimes struggle a little bit with the location of these new things. In this case, the user text configs. There's the limits.xml as well. So page properties to begin with. And again, just noticing something that I sometimes forget about is that we've got the timeout. So the text that's going to appear in that timeout message. Your session will end in X minutes, so you'd be able to modify that to make that more useful or more intuitive in your own environment. Then here we get our header tab display order for the various kinds of things. And in fact, here I want to try, make sure I go to the right one. This button right up here, third from the right, is a way to, if you know which line number you're going to, being able to just say, go to line 59. And so now down in the very bottom left corner, it's taking us to a place where to be able to look at, and this has changed from one server to the next. Since I was working with this yesterday, this is not in the same place as where I thought it was going to be. Let's just see what happens if we take out this line altogether and shift it over here, and now save the file. So on the basis of that, let's see what has happened. Okay, I don't believe that was the right place. So see how you're able to just be experimenting with it, but let's just see if it, yeah, okay, so we didn't get the right place yet. So let me undo that particular change. And, that's because we really didn't have it in the right place. Search tab, display order. Let's just see about this one being the right one. And besides that, it's okay if we experiment a little bit. There we go. Now the advanced tab is in the first position, but basic is still sitting there in the forward position. So we would need to be making some other adjustments. And in fact, I wonder if that doesn't relate back to this other area. Let's just see if that relates to this. Now that I've got the other one in play, let's just see if it then would bring the search advanced forward the way. Waiting. No, still didn't do it. So there's another thing to be working with there. So getting that all sorted nice and whatnot. But gives you the idea about the kind of thing that you might be able to work with. And here, since I didn't make a copy of it, I'm just going to put the file back the way it was. Footer information. Here we've got the browse bar. So you can see that it's showing print button, export button, email button. Just swap them out, decide which order you want to include, and then go on from there. So something else to look at, and here we've got see where we have the search tips. Yeah, so here we go. It appears actually to be, let's try this one other way instead, since they seem to have jumped things around. There we go. Okay, so it's now at the search tips at line 125. So I'm going to make a change in my notes here. And so here, what are we going to call or say about these things? Please select the first letter, things in relation to the course reserve in the alpha view, the search subject, enter the library defined subject headings, the examples. That's where we have that World Wide Web entry that's in play. So really being able to do a lot there. And I want to try one other thing here, and that is, let's see about the hover text. You can add hover text to inputs and drop-downs. So as you can see, currently not everything is utilizing this feature, but it gives you an opportunity to be putting that sort of thing in if you want it to be there. So page properties, then of course, and let me just go ahead and close that, take us back to the slides, and that takes us on to the limits.xml So here, being able to make the adjustments according to your collections in relation to the format, status, type, language, and so on. And you can be taking out limit groups altogether, can be hiding them, and various sorts of things like that. So that's what I think of as the really basic, the core XML, XSL files. Then we get the other ones that I think you may find you want to be working with. I think they have less of a global presence, but they're probably valuable just the same. So the email CFG.xml, again, configuring the bib display for sending by email. Which smart tags you're going to include, the labels, all of those sorts of things. The email body. This one really having to do with the footer details, and this we know from WebVoyage Classic, the same sort of thing, where it just includes the institutional information in that particular area. So if we just open that up, going over to content layout and configs once again. So here we've got our email CFG, and again, familiar looking things in it. And as we get down to the bottom, okay, somebody's taken that out too. Oh boy, interesting adjustments that have occurred. This is the config for XSL that creates email body content. Okay, so there must be another portion of things that, oh, in fact, it's email body that we wanted to go to, which is found in a different place altogether. Here we go. There's the email body. Picked up the wrong file. That will happen. So here we've got that same sort of stuff: institution name, address, and so on. That can be modified. Then back over to the slides for just a second here, and we've got the print common. So this is the same sort of thing where we would be configuring footer details, but now it's going to apply to any of the things that will be printed. So it gives you that bit of information there. The brief record config, the full record config. So this is when you're going to allow people to print that information, what you're going to include. Again, the mark tags, the labels, all of that kind of thing. And again, fairly straightforward kinds of changes. And then last here, the 104X underscore config. This one relating to how the serial holdings display is configured. One of the options in the WebVoyage configuration or WebVoyage architecture and configuration models item is how to actually configure a separate display for anything that is that fits in the category of serials. And so this would be something that you could be using together with that, and deciding whether you want to implement the NISO standard or stick with the standard display. So there are, again, choices that you can be looking at. So that is the kind of thing that gives you an idea about what your workload's going to be like here in terms of getting things together for your 9 libraries. That's going to be quite a job, Bob. But I think, once you have one done, then it'll be easier. But yeah, that, and you're also gaining familiarity, and you know where to go for what. Yeah. There are some resources I wanted to point you to. The WebVoyage Classic has not changed since the Voyager 6.5.4, so you'll be able to get that user guide. There's, of course, the WebVoyage 7, or the Voyager 7 entries that I suspect you already have. Here you've got some information in relation to accessibility, and so these are the things that we're taking into account when it came to this redesign of the LPAC. There's a Firebug tutorial. I would recommend taking a look at that. It gives you an idea about what's what, how to work with it, and lots of good tutorials here in relation to working with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, XML, XSLT, all of that kind of thing. One of the neat things about these tutorials that are at this w3schools.com entry is that they've got a tool that lets you alter the source code, then click on refresh so you can see what it looks like. So you get some experience with working in that area. So I think it's going to be helpful again in terms of just learning those tools. Good. Yeah, and in fact, I know that the support folks have used this kind of thing to learn it themselves, so it's useful just for that reason. And since they're endorsing it fully and completely, that helps too. It's not for the basic customization, not for that kind of thing. Then you'll have that architecture and configuration models document to go with. But from what I understand, no, they're not going to produce anything else in relation to this.